We're going to teach you how to play the Hound minigame or perform the Hound rite in the game Rites of Cthulhu from Quirky Engine Entertainment. So let's follow the turn order card, which is included in the game. Number 1, it says the Grand Cultist deals 5 cards to each player. After considering his or her cards, the Grand Cultist selects the rite. So ideally you would want to consider your strategy before you pick the rite, but we're just going to play the Hound because that's the one we're teaching. Then the Grand Cultist reveals the coveted artifact. The coveted artifact is what we're playing for. There are 13 of these cards. It has a number in the upper left and lower right hand corner, and in this case it has 3 points. The meteorites were 3 points at the end of the game. Also has a special rule, a power that is invoked when the card is put into play, which is the next step. Invoke the coveted artifact's power. We're not going to do that because I'm just teaching you how to play the Hound this time. So for convenience of gameplay, just go ahead and put the coveted artifact on top of the rites tablet. Now if you have any questions about how to play one of these mini games or perform one of the rites, there's a brief description on the front of each card, and then on the back there's a rundown of the rules of the game, and if you need more explanation than that, we've included an exhaustive rule book that includes all of the contingencies. The object of the game in the Hound, this is based on the story of the Hound from H.P. Lovecraft, is to pillage graves and get points. It's a grave robbing game. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to deal out the graveyard. So we'll slide this back here. To deal out the graveyard, you deal an amount of cards that's equal to the number of players or cultists plus 1. We have 2 players, so we're going to do 3. So put the cards out in a graveyard in kind of a circular pattern around the draw pile. Make sure you leave enough room so that cultists can play cards both on the inside and the outside. Each of these cards has a point value. And if we look at one of these entities cards, you'll see this card has a point value of 4. So what you're after is high point values, robbing the grave that has the highest point value. Now, being the Grand Cultist, and it says on the back of each of these rites tablets, the Grand Cultist has a special power. In this case, it says before playing his or her first turn, the Grand Cultist may peek at any single grave card in the graveyard. So as the Grand Cultist, I'm going to do that. I can look, here's what I just saw, and know what the point value of that card is before I play. Now, the way to rob a grave is you put a ghoul on a grave, and then, if you need to, you have the ghoul call in henchmen. No single player can dig a grave by his or herself. It requires 2 cultists to dig a grave, so you can't play 2 cards on a grave to do it. So let's just go through it. First, I am going to play a card. This is the 5 of Grey, the Chehisnook Witch Coven. And I'm going to play that card on this grave. When you first play on a grave, you get to secretly peek at the value of that grave. If you like what you see, you can stay on this grave and wait for another cultist to play another card across from you, or you can move your cultist to another grave, which I'm going to do. So I'm moving my ghoul to this grave over here. Now after you move your ghoul, you will never have a chance to look at the second grave until it gets dug, until another cultist comes over here to help you dig it. Now make sure your hand is at 5 cards at all times. Now it's his turn. So he's going to play on this grave and take a peek at it and decide whether he wants to stay or go. He's looking for a high point value. I'll stay. Okay, so he's going to stay. Now, once you've moved your ghoul, you can't move your ghoul again. This one is stuck here. So, and I can't play another ghoul on the other side and dig this grave because it requires 2 different players to dig a grave. So what I'm going to do is I am going to play a new ghoul on this grave, take a peek at it, and I like this one, so we're going to dig. So we go ahead and flip it over. That's how you dig the grave. This grave is a deep one worth 9 points. Now, you can now call in a henchman. So far I have 9 points as a digger on this grave, and he has 3. So if we were to stop now, I would take the grave because I have more points. But you can call in a henchman. Now, the rule to calling in a henchman is that the henchman has to be the same color or cult or suit as the ghoul card. And how you do it is both players bring their henchman cards out upside down or face down, and then on the count of 3 they reveal the cards. Now, you can psych out the other digger by not turning over your card on the count of 3, forcing them or causing them to inadvertently turn their card over on the count of 3. If that's the case, if the other digger reveals their card, they have to discard it, and you get to keep your card. So it's a little bluffing thing. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we both turned them over. I have 9 plus 1, which puts me at 10. He has 3 plus 12, which puts him at 15. So he gets the grave and the 9 points towards the end of this rite. And since I was the last one who played on that grave, it's now his turn. So he's going to play a ghoul on a grave of his choice. And he peeks at it, decides if he wants to stay or if he wants to go. He is going. All right, well, I can't play on this grave because I already have a card on this grave, so I have to play over there. So I'm going to play this 7 of gold here, which forces us to dig the grave, which is worth 7 points. 1, 2, 3. All right, we both called in 0 cards, and you might think, why did you call in a 0 card? It's not worth anything. Well, in this rite, the Hound, the 0 card doubles the value of the other card played on the grave. In other words, this 7 is now worth 14, and his 11 is now worth 22. So he goes ahead and takes the grave and the 7 points. We make sure our hands are back to 5 cards. And it's his turn to play on this grave. Now, if you get in the rare circumstance where it's the last grave and you have a card already on that grave and it's your turn, you have to pass your turn to the next player because you can't play 2 cards on the same grave. Okay, so we're digging the grave, which is worth 3 points. Slide our cards out. Our henchman cards, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I have 5 plus 4, which puts me at 9. He has 2 plus 1, which puts him at 3. So I go ahead and take that grave worth 3 points. We discard everything else. We've dug out the entire graveyard. So now we tally our points to see who won the rite. I got 3 points. He got 9 plus 7, so he got 16 points. So he has won the rite and gets the card, the artifact card that was placed on the rite's tablet. The rite can just go out of the game because it's been played. And that's how to play the Hound minigame or perform the Hound rite in the game Rites of Cthulhu from Quirky Engine Entertainment.